Welcome back to Small Caps, and a Merry Christmas to most of you out there. It's mid-December and here I am talking to you about Kalamazoo Resources. Today, Luke Reinehr, who's the chairman and CEO, is here to tell us some very, very interesting news. So ASX code is KZR. Sit up, get your pen and paper ready, because there is some exciting news out of Kalamazoo. So Luke, great to see you. You look like you're a pretty happy man. Couple of things that have happened in the last few days and today and et cetera, and that is all around lithium. Now, Kalamazoo, as you and I have spoken in the past, very much focus on the Ashburton project in West Australia, the Victorian projects as well, both gold.
Yep.
And then along came Mr. Lithium over in Western Australia. It's kind of changed the game a little bit. There's two things I want to talk about today. The first one is the announcement about your Pear Creek lithium project and how that came about. So let's talk about that first. And then I want to talk about what I see as the big news, which is SQM, which I think is the second largest lithium producer on the planet, have done a deal with you guys. So you just all get, ladies and gentlemen out there that are watching, you're going to have to wait a moment because both are exciting, Luke. But let's talk Pear Creek to start with. You've announced that you've expanded your lithium ground. So let's talk about where it is and why you've acquired this project.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry, and once again, thanks for the invite. It's always good to have a chat and keep you updated as to what we're about.
Yeah.
It'd be great to say we found lithium, Kerry, but I think actually lithium found us. And what I mean by that is that we've got a number of projects, as you well know, in the Pilbara, where we've been exploring for gold, and we've had them for a long time. And we did a recent assessment on those projects, and it really highlighted to us the prospectivity that these areas have for lithium and for hard rock lithium. And the reason being is we're in the same region as the Pilgangoora and also Wodgina lithium mines. And those two mines, which are owned by Pilbara Minerals and also by Mineral Resources, they're the two world's largest hard rock lithium mines, and they're only about 50 k's to the west of us. And we're in the same geological terrain. So it's elephant country. This is where the big lithium projects are found. So we've been doing a lot of work, and I can talk about that shortly in regard to our two projects there, which we call Doms Hill project and also Marble Bar. And they're about 120, 130 k's to the southeast of Port Hedland, about 30 k's out from Marble Bar. And between them, they're very prospective, we believe, for lithium. But just in recent time, we've also acquired another project, which we call Pear Creek, the Pear Creek lithium project. And what it's done, it's doubled our tenure or our land holding in this area to about, I think it's about 350 square kilometres. So we thought it was very beneficial to actually increase our holding. And the reason being is we're in what they call the Goldilocks zone. And the Goldilocks zone is where they find these big hard rock lithium projects. And it's the Archean greenstone granite contact. And it's about anywhere between 1 to 10 kilometres. And I think there's a magnetic map, which we put out in our announcement, which clearly defines where that is. And so this Pear Creek project is smack bang in the middle of this Goldilocks zone.
Yep.
So about 25 kilometres of strike. So we think it's a really important project. And the irony of it was, Kerry, was that we actually owned this ground in 2013. And so we were exploring for gold there back then. And so we were pretty familiar with it. But again, we're not the smartest guys in the world at the time, and we had no idea about lithium. We weren't looking for it. We were only looking for gold, but we knew the area, so that's why we've gone back there. So it's been a really important.
But I also think, Luke, that lithium really, at that stage back in those days, it wasn't really high on the agenda either. There wasn't the great demand that we're now seeing now. The world has changed quite dramatically between then and now. And I guess you just had the right ground at the time that is now morphed into being very, very valuable ground.
Yeah, and isn't it funny? That often happens in the mining industry. These different resources become valuable, and minerals, etc. And look, even just today, I was reading that Toyota have now announced that I think a third of their production by 2030 is now going to be electrical vehicles, and they're the last of the big automotive companies. So there's a big push for lithium because of the EV revolution. So the demand, I think we've seen the demand of it. I think it's the IMF believes that the demand for lithium is going to increase sixfold in the next 5 to 10 years. So we've got to go out there and find some very large lithium projects. And
you've also got to develop them, which is going to take time. How far into Lake Pear Creek? How did you get your hands on it? It's doubled your lithium ground, but how did you get your hands? How did you guys get it? Not one of the other bigger boys. Sorry to be. I'm not being rude, Luke.
No,
I'm just saying,
that's fine. I'm not offended, Kerry, at all. Well, look, believe it or not, we've researched every tenement in WA that we believe is within the Goldilocks zone. And I think it's something like 1,500 tenements. And so we've gone through all these, people that we know, companies, which ones, and we've ranked them. So we've really tried to identify what we consider to be the most prospective. And of course, this Pear Creek project is right between our Doms Hill and Marble Bar. So it kind of made a lot of sense to consolidate it in the area. So, and look, we managed to put together a pretty good deal. It's important that the deal we struck, Kerry, it's for paper or for shares, so we're not having to lay out cash. And part of the reason why we've done that is that, we're still very, very focused on our gold projects, which I'll touch upon in a moment. And you mentioned SQM, and even the deal we've just announced with SQM is very much keeping our capital and our cash focused on our gold projects.
Which I think, and we will come to the gold projects, but let's talk about the SQM announcement, because I've got to say, when I saw that come out, I was like, what? You've gone into a joint venture with SQM. Now, for those that may not know, SQM are the second, if not one of the largest lithium producers in the world. How did they find Kalamazoo, or did you approach them?
Yeah, no, Kerry, it's interesting. SQM themselves, so it's a Chilean company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And as you said, it's the second largest lithium producer, producing around about 19 or 20% of the world's lithium.
Is it that much? Goodness me.
Yeah. So they're a very large player. It's kind of like a BHP or a Rio in that sector. Kerry, the interesting thing about SQM is that they are here in Australia at the moment, but only in regard to a joint venture they have with Wesfarmers at the moment. They're developing the Mount Holland lithium mine and processing facility. Now, that's a big project. That's a couple of $1 billion. So that's their involvement here in Australia at the moment. But SQM actually approached us back in August. They have seen some of our early announcements in regard to Doms Hill and Marble Bar lithium project. And look, they made it very clear that they're looking for world-class lithium projects, not just in regard to discoveries or resources, but to actually develop them. And so in the area where we are, because there's obviously the Pilbara and also the Wodgina lithium mines, that's the type of scale that they're looking for. So they thought we were in the right country, that we had the right tenure. And so, yes, we've announced a transaction whereby they have an option on earning across our Doms Hill and Marble Bar lithium projects, not the Pear Creek project, which we just...
Oh, okay. So it's just those two projects.
Just those two.
Yep.
Yeah, and the reason being, Kerry, is we've just managed to complete the Pear Creek transaction in the last couple of days. So, there hasn't been the opportunity to have that discussion yet with SQM. So it relates to that. SQM can earn up to 70%. Into those two projects by spending or self-funding up to $12 million worth of exploration and development costs over the next 3 to 4 years. So, it's, again, as I mentioned, that enables us to keep our powder dry in regard to our own working capital for our gold projects. But I guess the key thing for us is that they have, undoubted qualifications in regard to exploration, development, financing, offtake production, etc. So for us, they are the perfect partner, and we couldn't be happier. It's been a terrific discussion working with them. It's taken a couple of months, but they've been looking at our projects. They certainly like what we've seen. As I mentioned, across both Doms Hill and Marble Bar, just in the last 2 or 3 months, we've undertaken a very extensive soil sampling program, more than 8,000 samples over the last couple of months. We're hitting most of them with a portable XRF gun to get an immediate view as to the lithium index on those assays. At Doms Hill alone, we've identified more than 30 anomalies or targets that we've got to follow up. and that'll be with more field work, but leading to drilling. And the plan is now with both at Doms Hill and also Marble Bar is that over the next couple of months or this field season, we'll complete that work and we'll kick off with an initial 5,000 metre RC program. So we're going to be drilling early next year in the start of the field season.
Okay, so I just want to understand this joint venture. You mentioned 12 million over 4 years.
Yep.
Does that start immediately? In other words, I'm looking at this from a shareholder point of view. Yep. There's shareholder funds that are sitting in a pot. Yep. But anything you spend on these lithium projects is coming from solely funded from SQM. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's going to be no shareholder funds. But it's all part of Kalamazoo. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of that, can you fast track this, and will you put a dedicated team onto this lithium project in working with SQM alone?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've done, Kerry. We've put across 2 of our geos specifically across to these projects at the moment. They've actually been out in the field. One of our geos, Beck, she was out there for a couple of weeks, a week ago. People kind of forget that Marble Bar's, one of the hottest places in the world.
I was just about to say 50 degrees plus, poor girl. 2
weeks ago, it was for that whole week, Kerry, it was considered to be the hottest place on the planet, and so they're sending back photos of 48 degrees on the thermometer. It's just seriously hot. But they did some great work at Marble Bar too. They've identified some numerous pegmatite dikes as well. So look, we've been doing a lot of work in the field there. But so we've got a dedicated team, which is being sole funded as we speak by SQM.
Are you going to increase the team because of this joint venture with SQM? Because SQM and yourself and many other people know supply demand. There's not enough supply to meet the demand in the lithium space at the moment. So I betcha they want to make sure that they fast track this as much as possible. Are you going to expand the team, and are SQM going to put some of their own team, or is it just purely you guys?
No. They've just brought out a senior geo from Chile, and he'll be working with us. And just on that, Kerry, part of this transaction and our partnership is that we're setting up a technical advisory committee jointly, so that. We're really going to try and tap into as much of SQM's expertise as we can. So that's very important for us. And if you've got, I don't know if you've got any geological qualifications, Kerry, if you're a geo by any background, because we're actually advertising as we speak.
Luke, I wish I did. But having said that, I wish I did, but having said that, you just said it was 48 degrees and that poor girl was out there. So thanks. I'm hot here on the Gold Coast. I can't even imagine Marble Bar. Oh.
All right. But yeah, look, so we're building the team out as we speak. So, we're very bullish on that, and we're going to work very, very hard to make it work.
Question for you. With those big mines on pretty much either side of you, you are surrounded by some big hard rock lithium mines out there. How did you guys get a hold of these areas? Why didn't they snap them up?
Well, certainly with Doms Hill and Marble Bar, we've held those for probably for 4 or 5 years for exploring for gold. So they've been in our portfolio. And in regard to Pear Creek, well, I guess because we identified it. Again, we've been operating this area for 10 years, primarily as a private company, Kerry. So we know a lot of the people there.
Right.
We knew some of the vendors, so we went and basically knocked on their door, and they're happy to. And interesting, the deal itself, Kerry, was that they've taken shares in Kalamazoo. They want to come for the ride as well. So that's again.
Okay, so the Pear Creek deal, they're taking shares. There's not a cash transaction with that. Is it purely shares?
Purely shares. Yep.
So they clearly have a lot of confidence that this is going to be going a lot further.
Absolutely, they've got a very good view that this is that their ground or their previous ground, that it's now going to be really actively explored for lithium. And that's one of the interesting things about this whole area, Kerry, is that our 3 projects there have never been explored for lithium. Never drilled for lithium. So it really is a great opportunity. And what we've seen from the soil sampling and geochem work and field work is that it's looking really prospective. So we're very, very interested. And look, I think SQM themselves, they've got a good view as to its prospectivity as well, and I think that's a good validation for our technical team. It's that they're doing the right type of work, and hopefully that will lead potentially to a discovery.
Well, as you said earlier, doing a transaction like this is like doing a transaction with BHP or Rio. Well done, Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
Let me just finish off with it, because I do want to talk about gold before we run out of time. What's the news flow going to be? Because we are coming into Christmas. Are you going to slow down? Are you going to give yourselves a little bit of a break over Christmas? And what's happening in the new year? Because I know Kalamazoo will be at the gold conference, but we're going to allow you to talk about lithium. Be rude not to. In February in Sydney. I'm sure there'll be a lot of attention on you at that stage, Luke. What's the news going to be between now and then?
Okay, we're just finalising now and getting the final assays. With a bit of luck, before the end of this year, we'll put out an announcement as to the final assays at the Ashburton. So the drill program there. Probably also there'll be an update in regard to the Victorian programs over the last 2 or 3 months. So we'll put that out. And then we're going to kick off a big drilling program next year, Kerry. We're going to put a lot of meters into the Ashburton as we look to extend that out to hopefully 2 million ounces of gold. At the Sisters Gold Project, which is a long strike from the Hemi discovery, we've been working through a whole range of native title and heritage issues there. We think permitting there is looking just about finalised, so we'll be drilling there early in the field season next year as well. And again in Victoria, we've got a number of drill programs as well. So yeah, everyone likes drilling, so we'll be doing a lot, and that's without even mentioning what we're going to be doing on the lithium in near Marble Bar. Yeah,
and because the lithium, as I said, now that you've got you've got a pot of cash there, you can put a whole team with it. You can pretty much fast track that alongside the gold projects. Yep. So Kalamazoo is becoming a lot bigger as a company with a lot more projects, a lot more moving parts, I guess. Which one excites you the most? Because I personally, listen, I love the lithium, and the fact that SQM have come on board is massive validation. So well done. But I've always been a little bit curious about the Sisters project, and there hasn't been that much information coming out, and it's very close to De Grey's Hemi discovery. Yep. Are you going to be doing some drilling there soon?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be drilling there early in the field season. Again, the field season up in this part of the world, Kerry, usually doesn't kick off till March, again because of the weather. So you'll be looking to be drilling there, and we've identified a number of anomalies that we want to be drilling there, and we've put that out in previous announcements. So I think we've got planned like a 4,000 or 5,000 metre program there. Definitely want to be drilling that. Ashburton as well. that's a lot of that is just extension and infill drilling. And again, Victoria as well. So a lot of drilling to happen over the next 12 months.
Okay, so now, Luke, everybody knows I love to finish off my conversations with 3 reasons people should be sitting up and taking notice of Kalamazoo right now. But I'm going to make it simpler for you, because if I include everything, it'll probably have to be 6 to 8. Okay. Given the exciting news with SQM coming on board, let's just give 3 reasons people should be sitting up and taking notice around those lithium projects for Kalamazoo.
Okay, in regard to the lithium, look, got an undoubted partner now. With great and deep expertise, well funded. Now, as I mentioned, $12 million of sold funding in over the next couple of years. But also, we're an elephant country. If you're going to find another Pilbara or Wodgina, I think it's probably in our area. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of Goldilocks zone and strike extent to test. Our initial work has really identified a number of anomalies that we think very prospective. So yeah, it's a very exciting time, Kerry. And we've just got to do the work now. But as you know, to do the work, you need the funding as well, and that's why this type of transaction we think is really important for us.
I'm going to finish off this conversation with one thing. I remember back in 2019 when Chalice came along to the gold conference. Chalice Mining, if you don't know about them, you've been sleeping under a rock. But they were gold, and then all of a sudden the PGEs came on board, and now they've just spun off Falcon Metals, which they're gold projects. I just want to ask the question, is that potentially what may happen in the future with Kalamazoo, or is it way too early to be asking that sort of a question?
Yeah, look, it's something that we've been considering, but to your point, I think it is probably too early. We've got to get this bedded down now. There's been a lot of moving parts into this development of our lithium business. But as always, Kerry, and Chalice would did exactly the same. It's what's best for the shareholders. What's the best return? And sometimes, in markets, the sum of the parts can be worth more than the whole of the sum. So you've just got to kind of look at that as well. And as you said, if we've got two very distinct teams, maybe at some stage it will make sense. But again, it's probably a little bit early. But we're always looking at at options and what's best for our shareholders and people.
You always say that, Luke, and that's what I love about Kalamazoo. They're always saying it's what's best for the shareholders. So shareholders and potential shareholders out there, how's that for a nice early Christmas present? SQM coming on board, doing a deal with Kalamazoo Resources on their lithium projects, but it's only on their two of their lithium projects. Don't forget, we talked earlier about their Pear Creek project. That's not part of the JV with SQM. But watch this space. Who knows what's going to happen as Kalamazoo continues the drive along a lithium space, but also gold in Victoria and Western Australia. So Merry Christmas to all of you. Luke Reinehr, I know how excited you are about all this. All that hard work is coming to fruition. So congratulations to you. And I hope you get at least a little bit of time off over Christmas. Thanks for chatting to me today.
Thanks very much, Kerry.